Okay, so now we're going to be looking at something that looks similar to what we looked at in the last video. We have two lines, and they are cut by transversal. What is different here, if you'll notice highlighted in orange, are these arrows. These arrows are used to indicate that line P and line Q are parallel. If we had another set of parallel lines that we wanted to keep separate from this, we could use two arrows, for instance. So something like that and this. So that way we know that these two lines are parallel to each other, but they're not parallel to these. So that's one way you can keep track of it. We're just like the other time, we're going to be talking about the names. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. And angle 4 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles. Now remember, most of the names have to do with where they're located, inside or outside. So angles 1, 2, 8, and 7, they're all exterior angles. Angles 4, 3, 5, and 6, they're interior angles. So you look at the combination of where they are and where they are in relation to the transversal. So if we look at angle 4 and angle 5, they're on the same side of the transversal. So they're same side interior angles. If we look at 4 and 6, they're on opposite sides or alternate sides. They're alternate interior angles. You would do the same thing for exterior angles, 1 and 7, alternate exterior angles. And then the one that sometimes people have troubles with are corresponding angles. The way I look at it is corresponding means that they're in the same place comparatively. So in other words, angle 1 is in the upper left part of this group of 4. The one that's in this upper left, the same position in this group of 4 is 5. So upper left, upper left. Angle 3 corresponds with angle 7 because it's lower right, lower right. Lower left, 8 would correspond with 4, and so on. Okay, so what I want you to start thinking about now is how those different angle pairs are related to each other. So we know, for instance, that vertical angles, that's an angle pair, and vertical angles are congruent. Okay, and we have vertical angles here. But I want you to look at angle 1 and angle 5, or angle 1 and angle 6, angle 1, and so on. So look at the different angle pairs and see what you think. So we know vertical angles are congruent. We know linear pairs are supplementary. Okay. So at this point, I want you just to look at the pictures. Look at the picture, look at angle 1, and look at angle 5. Okay, what do you think seems to be true about it? So angle 1, angle 5, how would you compare these? Do they look the same? Do they look different? If they look different, how do they look different? So for instance, angle 1 and angle 2, do they look the same? Okay, they're different, aren't they? And this is a linear pair, and we know they're supplementary. What about angle 1 and angle 6? Do they look the same? Do they look different? If they don't look the same, how do they look different? So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video for just a few minutes, and I want you to try to come up with a couple. So I'll come up with angle 1 and angle 5 and as many others as you can. So pause the video for as much time as you need, and then come back and we'll start again. There are many ways you could do this, but one way you could do it is do something like this, where you get a piece of paper and just trace out the angle. If you have a pair of scissors, you can cut that out. Now, that came from angle 1. So I'm just going to put angle 1 just so that I don't forget. If you didn't have a pair of scissors, you could fold a piece of paper, anything you want, and that's pretty close to angle 1. Now, the nice thing about this angle is that you can turn it no matter which way you want, and it's still the same angle. So I'm going to go down here, and we can see, we already know about vertical angles. We can see it matches up. Well, angle 1 and angle 7, they match. Angle 5 and angle 1, they seem to match up to me. I hope they seem to match up to you as well. So if angle 1 and angle 5 are the same, we can write that they're congruent. Now what about angle 1 and angle 6? Now that looks an awful lot to me like a linear pair. So angle 1 and angle 6, they don't form a linear pair because they're not touching, but if we put them together, I could say that they could form a linear pair. So what's important about that is that means angle 1 and angle 6 are supplementary. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video some more and see if you can complete all of the other angle pairs. And from that, we should be able to get some basic rules that will work. So hopefully you got some things like angle 1 and angle 5, and that's the first one we got. Those two are congruent. If we look at angle 1 and angle 8, okay, those look to me, well, that one, if we look at the angle itself, the opening, it's very wide. This one is much narrower, right? So if we put these together, if we cut this out and slid them together, they look like, to me, like they would form a linear pair. So these two right here, I would say are supplementary. Instead of using all of these words and writing them all out, I'm going to use this notation. So I'm going to use M. M stands for measure. So the measure of angle 1, so if we were to measure this, we would get something in degrees, right? The measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 8 has to be equal to 180, because that's what supplementary means. Now, the other one, angle 7, this looks to me very much like angle 1. So I might say something like angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. And there are a lot of different angle pairs which you could match up, and I'd like you to finish doing that.